Yeah, I'm going to guest request. I'm going to try to add my guests, so please bear with me. Give me a few minutes as we sort it out. So you'll but join. You see, I've seen you here. Tell Felicity and Noah to join. Welcome, everyone. Please give me a few minutes. In the meantime, you may join the conversation by sharing your own thoughts on the subject matter, whilst we try to I try to get my guests on. Okay, so bear with me. You may feel free to join the conversation. Good evening. Happy Sunday to all of you. I hope you're all doing very well. So Noong is here. Yes. Noong. So Noong, I'm adding you. Please just be on the lookout. I'm waiting on
Hello.
Wonderful. Yeah. Hi,
Hi,
sis.
good
Brilliant.
evening.
Thank you. How's your Sunday been?
I've had a very busy Sunday and also very tiresome because there were a lot of activities yesterday. Today I was rushing to finish so many things, a lot of paperwork, preparation for Monday, outstanding issues. I haven't finished, but the battle is the Lord's.
The battle is the Lord's. Thank you so very much. The hassle is real.
Yeah,
We have to do everything we can to join.
yeah.
To join. To
Hey.
join, and that's Felicity.
Hi.
Good evening to
Good
you as
evening.
well. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday indeed. Hi,
Welcome,
Nicole.
ladies.
How do I share
Thank you for
them?
having
No,
How do I share this link? Yeah, okay.
she says hi.
Hi, Felicity. I'm trying to share the link with a few
Yeah.
people. Let me just.
Well, let's. You don't know what Felicity and I have been doing in the past.
Let's not even talk about it because it's been a lot.
No, we'll talk about it later. We're trying to get a hang of all the things we have to do to ensure that everybody will be here. So I'm so glad we're all here this evening. So Felicity, I was just asking Noel how her weekend has been. So Felicity, you're mute. You're
Okay,
you're
can you hear
mute.
me? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, my weekend's been okay. We're existing. Yeah.
We're existing. That's
Yes.
deep. So,
Mm.
this evening, after several conversations with so many women and, our own leadership, evolving leadership experiences, and the fact that politics has been centered to all of our lives in so many different ways. And I tell people who say that, oh, I'm not interested in politics, I'm not interested in politics. I said, hello, politics is interested in you, whether you're
Absolutely.
interested or not. And
Exactly.
politics is all around you. I think Noor has no,
Disappeared.
she's disappeared. Let me see. No, send me a request again. I'll try to see if I can find you again. She was trying to share the link. Yeah. So hopefully No will be able to join me, and we'll bring her back on. Hopefully. No, if you join, I'll be able to see you and I'll add. Otherwise, you send me a request to join, and I'll be happy to bring you back on. But Felicity, what do you also tell people when they come to you and they go like, I'm not interested in politics? Felicity, you're mute again. You're mute.
I don't know what the hell. Okay, let's start
Okay,
again. Okay.
start again.
So the thing is, I think a lot of people tend to think that politics is only going to vote, for example. People have a lot of misconceptions about what politics actually is and what it looks like and what it means to be a citizen and all of that. People think that, oh, they go to vote and then that's about it. Or they don't care about voting, and that's where politics ends for them. But they don't understand that it's political policy that drives how much you're paying for fuel, right? So even if you don't have a car, it affects how much you're paying for products. So you're paying for rice, sugar, milk, whatever you're buying. It affects you in terms of the quality of education being offered to your children, yourself, the options available to you, the job market. So it affects you in every aspect of your life, even the health service, right? So whether or not you're going to go to the hospital and you're going to get a bed, politics is shaping these things. So even if you don't care about politics, politics very much involves you every single day. It affects you in every single way. So if you don't want to be involved in that decision making, other people will make the decisions for you. People who might have their own interests, people who might have their own selfish interests or whatever interests, and you're allowing them to make decisions which will always impact your life in every single way. So it's all up to you.
You can't run away from it. No. So again, the conversation around, the I don't know, can we even blame them? People seem quite disillusioned about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
politics and our democracy, and the fact that it's been unable to deliver to them maybe a dignified life, a life or a promise that they see other, nations at least, are able to present to their citizens. So they are genuinely disillusioned. Can you blame them, especially those who have checked out?
No, I will blame them as far as I am concerned, because we're all responsible for what we do. And it's easy to sit back and complain about other people mismanaging the economy. And like you said earlier, you don't care about politics, but politics cares about you. And politics factors you in. And everything politics does affects your life directly. Because guess what? When we go to the market and you see the prices of goods and services available in this country, it is mismanagement that has driven those prices into a very difficult place where we all have to suffer. When you wake up every day, the things that you have to do, electricity bill, when you go out, your fuel, even to afford a car before you can buy fuel, it's a whole different matter. The place you live in, to be able to rent is so expensive, because landlords have to break even and then they keep hiking prices, but you can't blame them because building materials have become so ridiculously expensive. And if they are buying building materials at such an expensive price, even cement, so it's either you are building or you are renting. Now, if someone spends so much money to build, how do you expect them to rent it at a cheap price to you? They also built it for profits. They didn't
Yes.
build it to come and, dash to you or make your life better. They're also trying to improve their standard of living. There are a lot of people who build homes to use as income. And when they get the rent every month, they use that for their own living. So as prices of things get more and more expensive, guess what? They also go back and increase the rent because they have to break even. They have to be able to manipulate their expenditure. And I believe, and this is why in my opening I said that I do blame people who sit back and complain and do nothing. Because at the end of the day, for me, sitting back and doing nothing makes you complicit in your own suffering.
Exactly.
As far as I am concerned, I will not become a partaker of my own oppression. If I am being oppressed, I will not sit back and allow you to oppress me. I will not involve myself by keeping quiet, because the goal, you see, when we talk about politics, how we are attacked on social media,
Yes.
the goal is to silence you. The goal is to
To
silence you.
push
So if you
you
also
out of the
listen,
space.
simple,
Hold
because you are
on,
needling them.
hold on. My little people, I think I didn't lock the door. Let me lock the door and come back.
But you go on the one because I want to actually come in. So
Yes. So I'll go on anyway. When you speak up, duty bearers who are corrupt, who are incompetent, do not
And that.
want you to speak, do not want you to blame them, do not want to feel the heat of your voice, because
But
when you
why?
speak,
But why? No,
because
maybe you
it's no,
share these opinions because you are a bit informed about the process. Do you think that we have created a nation of literate citizens? And when I talk literate, I mean, in its expanded form, it's not just numeracy, it's not just literacy, it's also civic literacy, it is financial literacy, it is economic literacy, you know, all the raft of literacies that an informed citizen is needed so that they can first know their rights and know the platforms on which they can assert their rights and know the platform for which they can seek redress. Do you think we are a literate society? Briefly,
We are a
and I'll come
literate,
to
we're a very
Felicity. Yes.
literate society, but unfortunately, we are also a very timid society. And let me just pick up from where I left off when you asked why. Why do they have an issue with us speaking? Because when you speak, you sensitize others. When you speak, you educate others. You make other people understand what is going on. When you speak, you embolden others. You know, because someone is sitting somewhere, they want to complain, but they can't. And then they realize that, oh, Shamima is complaining. Let me go and stand with Shamima and let me shout with Shamima, right? Shamima is taking a step. Let me take a step with Shamima. It means I'm not alone. It means that I have company. It means that my voice is stronger and I can speak. Duty bearers who are corrupt do not want that, because then it doesn't work in their favor. You are taking their power away from them. And sensitizing, recently we had a labor stand up for themselves, organized labor. Who knew that organized labor would ever
Unprecedented.
wake up and
All
realize
of them.
the power that they wield? And you see the kind of results they got. I was listening to someone on the radio, and someone said, we haven't had something like that since Drop That Chamber. I was very heavily involved in Drop That Timber, so I know the terrain for a very long time. And when you get to a point where the suffering is unbearable, all Ghanaians feel it. And I
Yes.
will tell you one beautiful thing that happened during Drop That Chamber. We had MPP people calling us backdoor, showing their support. We had people from different parties, from the NDC, and there were a lot of people who thought it was an NDC movement. It wasn't. It was something that was born on WhatsApp. Someone called me, we had a conversation. The next moment, we are adding other people. We created a WhatsApp group. It got too big, out of control. People were calling us from the US to support. And what happened at the end of the day? They felt the pressure
Change
and
happened.
they dropped it. And they dropped it.
Yeah.
It's
They
the same thing
dropped
we've
it
seen
like
with you.
it was hot.
Yes,
Felicity.
Yeah.
dropped it. What?
So
You see, so
Felicity.
you and I must speak.
Yeah.
You and I must
We
speak, and
must.
you and I must.
Yeah. So I
Felicity.
just, I wanted to touch on what she was saying, because people need to understand that democracy and being a citizen is not a spectator sport. So you don't go and vote every 4 years and you go and sit at home and do nothing. You're supposed to, speak truth to power, hold them accountable. You see, when organized labor finally realized there was something wrong in this country, finally, shockingly, all these, for the last 7 years, there's been nothing wrong, but suddenly they found there was something wrong simply because their pensions were going to be touched, their pension funds were going to be touched because of this whole sale of the hotels. They decided to stand up and be counted, and they got the results. So the reality is that every single Ghanaian needs to know that their voice matters, they're important, because when it comes to bashing, let's say, celebrities or trending topics, people don't need permission to do that. But suddenly, when it comes to politics, and when it's important, when it's actually things that are affecting your everyday life, bread and butter issues, and no, people want to be quiet, people want to be silent, and people are
Amazing.
waiting for other people to stand up before they can stand behind them, as opposed to
Sometimes they
standing
don't stand
beside
behind
them
them.
and standing in
Sometimes
front
they
of them.
push them away.
Yeah, and so the thing is, but when it comes to bashing, and the things which don't matter, you see how people can rise up in their numbers. When it comes to, I don't even want to go into certain things, but I think that people are choosing what to speak on, and people need to recognize that going out to vote is not the only way you can be involved in the political process.
Yeah.
And that when you go out to vote, after voting, you don't hand off your whole country to the people ruling you. You are still there to work for your interests. And the minute you realize they're not working for your interests, you need to speak up, you need to hold them accountable. It took just one day, a threat of a strike. The strike didn't even happen.
Yes.
And the government decided that they were going to stop that sale instantly. The threat of a strike. Do you know if things like e-levy, if more Ghanaians got behind it and got out to protest. I was one of the people who picketed outside of Parliament,
Yes.
we did a lot of work against e-levy. And it affects every single one of us. And people complain, I hear people complain all the time. Yeah, when it got to the time when people needed to get up and come and protest and join hands, you were silent, you were sitting in your homes, and you have to understand that it's democracy is not a spectator's sport. If you don't stand up for yourself, people will capture the space and do things in their interest. And that's what we're seeing happening
enrich
currently.
themselves and their
Exactly.
progeny, So what do we do? What people are fearful. What do you reckon are the barriers to effective civic activism? And just that before we come to our subject matter for today.
Okay, so I think that there's power in numbers, right? You see what happened in Kenya. Because there were so many of them, there's only so much the state can control if we are united. As we all know, united we stand, divided we fall. If we can stick together and decide that we're going to stand up for something, and we're standing up for the right thing, and we stand up in our numbers, we outnumber the politicians, we outnumber the government, we outnumber the police, the security services, we outnumber them. But it shouldn't be something that a few people are doing. All of us need to get involved. All of us have a part to play. Even if not everybody is going to be on TV or be on this show, but in your little spaces, there's things that you can do. There's things that you can do. You can educate people. You work with people. You buy from people. How are you engaging those people to make sure that they're speaking up, understanding how politics affects them, who they vote for matters, and why they need to make that decision without being enticed with rice and bread and t-shirts. Yeah, and understanding that t-shirt is it going to be worth the increases in fuel over the next 4 years. So it's just about people recognizing the fact that they have a part to play, their voice matters, and people coming together as a collective, having a collective voice. I think that's important.
Thank you.
And not waiting for any messiahs and any saviors. Nobody's coming. No. You can save yourself.
I always say that we are we are the writers of our destiny, isn't it? And we as a people have created this society that we live in. Nobody would come from anywhere else to reset this society for the better. It starts with we waking up to the realization that no, this is not okay. We can be better, we demand better, we deserve better. And I think that's why I'm actually sometimes pained. I think we've lost Noah again. Hopefully she's able to join back. I'm pained that the NCCE is not at the forefront and is not well resourced to be able to provide this public education.
It's intentional.
Because look, the last local level elections, which I participated fully in the advocacy to increase the female numbers, and out of over how many thousands of people who contested for the assembly positions, we are in a situation where we have less than 5% of the district assemblies. This is the local assembly. This is where women live and operate. They are the primary users of local services. They're also the primary providers of local services. If you go into our districts, the market women, the small tabletop operators, the health, caregivers, the caregivers generally. So they use the hospitals, they go for antenatal, they go to the markets, they go for PTA meetings. They use the sanitation services. They are mostly the primary disposers of rubbish in our homes. So if at the local level where decisions are made about the development of the district, we are having the absence of women, it's problematic. It means our nation has not risen up to their realization that they're walking or limping with just one feet. And perhaps it's also because we haven't imbibed our rights. No, I hope you are able to join again. No, kindly join. So I just want to remind us again. I was just looking at our constitution and I was like, wow, this constitution, even though there are some elements that require review, like the excessive powers that we have placed in the hand of one human being, the executive president. I am one of the advocates that no, a human being cannot be clothed with so much powers. 35 or so million of us investing this power to one person, that needs a second look at. But look, when you take the 1992 Constitution of Ghana and you read the opening, it starts with, "We the people of Ghana, in exercise of our natural and inalienable rights to
Admit,
establish a
no one has
framework."
come back. Sorry,
No
no
one's
one
come
has.
back.
Yeah, yeah. She says admit to
Um,
me. Yeah,
she sent you a
yeah.
text, but I
Yeah, it
can't.
came up in this. No one resend it. Sorry, guys.
Oh,
Women in
sorry.
tech.
Yeah, women in tech. It's no. It's also the unreliability of our
Yeah,
technologies.
data, internet.
Mm,
We all know what the issues are.
it
You
is
know, what's NCA doing?
expensive. It is
What's the
slow.
communications
It's
ministry doing?
unreliable.
Exactly.
I can't see no. I don't know how I'm supposed to do it. She says admit me.
Yeah.
Admits me. Eh, So why am I
Resend
not seeing
the
you? Okay, I've seen.
no.
No, it's
Yeah.
somebody else who has sent a request. No, check to
No
see
one
if you can send a
resend it. So
request.
cancel the one you send and resend the new one.
Because
Hmm.
somebody else has sent me a request waiting to be approved. So you send me a request again. Okay. So that's the
You were reading the
preamble to the
constitution.
1992 Constitution, that an exercise of our natural and inalienable right to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity. Then it goes on, but the first article of the Constitution, please let us just remind ourselves that sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana. That's you and I. That's Felicity. That's Noam. That's you, Adai Kwesi. That's you, Ed. I'm being distracted a bit. I don't know what's happening now. Is somebody eating Nuan's thing? Because I can't. And let's see. Let me just finish this and then I'll try. Whilst Felicity, you are speaking, I'll try to put Norm back on. So just so that you tell us what you feel about this first article of our constitution, that sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised, and in the manner and within the limits laid down in the Constitution. What does this make you feel? What should this tell you? How empowered should you feel by this constitutional provision? Felicity, you're muted again.
Sorry. Yeah.
Good.
All this is saying is that the power resides in the bosom of the people. The power is ours. We own it. It is ours to exercise. And that's what that's saying. And we need to recognize that that power is ours, because a lot of the time I think that we're constantly handing over power and we're feeling powerless when the power is ours, like it resides in us. We make the country. We are the government. We are the people. Power is us and we are the power.
Right. Sorry, I'm still trying
Okay.
to. So let me just bring in this latest Afrobarometer report survey done over tracks in 10-year cycles or so, that is now revealing that 87% of Ghanaians believe that this country is headed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Corruption is still high.
Yeah.
And the young people, that there's been an increase in those who feel that even though democracy is still the most preferred option, there are quite a sizable number of people who think that perhaps a military regime might be the best avenue to reset. Why are we losing trust in our democracy?
Well, I think it's basically because it hasn't delivered. Like, let's be honest, right? People's needs are not being met. People's voices are not being heard. So people feel disillusioned with the entire process. They feel like, well, this doesn't represent my interests. So maybe democracy does not work. So if democracy doesn't work, then what else? Because democracy hasn't, all the promises that democracy seems to have offered, then, you know, it hasn't delivered on them. So people look around and say, well, maybe if we just had a military, you know, government, because people see a lot of lawlessness, especially from power, from people in power. And they see a lot of lawlessness and it's not being curbed, it's not being addressed. So they feel that, okay, maybe if we had a military regime, they would be able to restore some level of order, and then it will just reset the system, because democracy just hasn't delivered. It hasn't delivered, you know, it hasn't delivered in terms of employment, it hasn't delivered in terms of better standards of living, it hasn't delivered in terms of being able to access safe, good health services. In terms of educational system, we all know what the challenges are, and even when you're done with school, we know what the challenges are, even finding a job, and finding a job that can pay you in a manner where you're able to look after yourself, you know, because it's one thing finding a job, but finding a job that actually pays you enough to be able to actually live. Like, people are living their cost of their being paid 1,000 cedis, and their cost for the month is 2,500. And this is not just someone trying to live a lavish life, just trying to live a very average life. You know, they're just talking food, transport. Some people's transport to work costs more than their entire salary. But because they don't want to be unemployed, they feel that they need to still accept this job. So it's stuff like that democracy hasn't delivered. And people, instead of people recognizing that they have a part to play in ensuring that it does deliver on its promises, they're thinking, well, military regime. But the reality is that they have to also understand that with a military regime comes less freedoms, right? And those people are not saints. They're not angels who are going to come and suddenly provide you with all your needs. How do you know those people are not just going to take power, strip you of all your freedoms, and then enrich themselves, just as the government that we have now is doing?
Right. We're having little difficulties. If you've joined us, we are having a tete-a-tete. Yeah, like a call was coming through on the significance of women participating in elections. So let's come to that. What business do women have participating in politics? I mean, what's your business there?
Okay, is long back?
No, it's not yet.
No, just
back. It's
okay.
I don't
That's
even
fine.
know.
Yeah. Okay. So in Ghana, 51% of the population approximately is female. So how can you have a political system which does not represent your population? So you're 50, and at the moment in Parliament, for example, there's about 18% are female, 18%. When you have a country where there's 51% of the population being female, so then that means the needs of women, the interests of women, their voices are not being heard, and that means the country is operating on half of its capacity, because you're not allowing half. Is like if you had a team of 5 people and you're only using 2 people. That's 3 people you're not using. That's 3 people whose abilities, their thoughts, all of that, which would help you, you're not using. You're underutilizing. So that's the problem. So why do we need women in the political space? Because Ghana has women, and we have women who are competent, women who are intelligent, accomplished, and we cannot live in a society where we do not recognize the value that women bring outside of the home. Because I feel like when it comes to the home, we recognize the place that women play in the home, like as mothers, as grandmothers, as nurturers, as caregivers. But somehow when it comes into the political space, we're unable to recognize that leadership ability that our mothers have, our grandmothers have, our aunties have, all the women that we've grown up with, the leadership, excellent leadership ability that they've demonstrated, that those same women can apply that within other spaces, within the corporate world, or especially within the political space. Because, for example, in we have the taxes which are on sanitary products, for example.
Yes.
And this is something that has made pads so expensive, so expensive for so many people. A lot of there's young girls who actually would have to sometimes have certain relations with men just to be able to afford pads. There's people who girls who can't go to school on certain days simply because they can't afford pads. This is a real bread and butter issue.
Yeah.
But this successive governments have not paid attention, because we don't have enough women in the room who are going to explain why it's important that we should not have a tax on female sanitary products.
Period.
We should not be having a tax on it. You know, we've taken taxes off condoms, for example, yet we have taxes on period products, where women don't choose to have periods, females don't choose to have periods, is a normal bodily function. We don't choose to have it. And yet we're being taxed on them. People can't have, this is something that's happening to just about every single woman. And so if women are not allowed in these spaces, if women are not in these spaces, when these conversations are happening, we're not going to be able to represent the interests of women. And interest of society as a whole, not just as of women only. When it comes to like stuff like, we think about water, access to water. You have a household. You're thinking, what are you going to drink? What are you going to eat? This is someone having to make decisions for a household. So they're not just thinking about themselves. They're always thinking about how things affect everybody else. And that's something that a lot of women have developed this skill, because that's how they've been trained to always think about how everything that they do is serving the interest of everybody around them. And if you're not utilizing this skill and you're not allowing people like that to be in leadership positions, Ghana is losing out. And we look at the state of the country. Look around you. We know there's something missing. We can see it.
But they are not yet convinced. You know, there was a text message that said that, well, the military regime, to your earlier, point about the military regimes, they're not being perfect. Yes, they are not perfect, but we must be worried if we choose a democracy and people who have not lived in military regimes, seem to think that, have this romanticized idea of a military, regime being the regime that will perhaps, put discipline back to us. So back to the issue of women and the issues that should determine elections 2024. I mean, for some of us, one of the major glass ceilings that had not yet been broken, giving our consistent advocacy over decades, was the amplification and the elevation of women in politics, because really that is where the decisions are going to are going to be made. That's the most important platform to truly transform. And as you were making the point about democracy not delivering, people would say that, yes, oh, but we've seen gains all around. We've seen gains, we've not seen transformation, the necessary transformation that we should see with sectors working. You can't point to any single sector in our society today that is working full throttle. You can't point to that.
Even, let's not full throttle for whack or far. 90%.
We don't want perfect.
Yeah,
we want working
because there's always going to be
systems.
room for improvement. But can we say any of our sectors is working at even 90% capacity? Where, I'm actually, people should prove me wrong.
Just tell us. Just tell us where. So of course we have come far as a nation since independence, but at 67 years, I think that it is legitimate to aspire that we should be better. We should be at a better place than we are. And
if Ghana
nobody
was a
can take the fact.
If Ghana was a 67-year-old person, like a man or woman,
He's on
would you say this is an accomplice? If Ghana was a 67-year-old, would you say that? Would you look at Ghana in its state and say, or baby, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
And at worst, this pensioner at 67 years old would now have to live with a haircut he didn't ask for, which might even further push him into his grave. So the issue about the amplification of women has been long. We've wanted the numbers. In 1960, President Nkrumah started a parliament with 10 women. I mean, he was Ghana's first affirmative action, proponent, because he saw very early the genius of the women, of the market women, who were like the backbone of the CPP, really. The industrious market women, yes, who supported the CPP. And very early on, he knew that this country was not going anywhere if we were not, training our women, educating our women and putting them in positions of power and influence and decision making, isn't it? So we started with 10 women. Where did we go? Over the course of this what do you call it, of this republic, the 1992 republic, the fourth republic. Over the course of this period, we have not even been able to break the women in parliament figures that we had even preceding, you
Yeah,
know,
the percentage. Yeah,
the percentage.
exactly.
We
So
are
they're
still
putting
wallowing
your
around
cost and your cost your platform.
14%.
Yeah.
You know, in a 275 member parliament, we have only 40 women. You know, when I started the media, I was in the media in 2008. CPP still had reps. Sami Nkrumah was in parliament. PNC had reps in parliament. Today is strictly between NPP and NDC. And for their women, it's 20 here and 20 there. You know, and unfortunately, per the results of the parliamentary primaries last year, it is obvious that we may not even we'll be lucky if Ghana retains the 40% figure. And there are serious implications. There are even international implications that Ghana's parliament continues to be very gender underrepresented. The
Yeah.
International Parliamentary Union I was discussing earlier has given nations a deadline within the next decade. If they don't attain a 40% female representation in their parliaments, they are going to be reduced from members to observer status. You know, so there are international, you know, obligations that countries, and look at where we are, 14.5 or so percent to 40%. So that is why the conversation around affirmative action and why we must not take decisions by political actors that are significant, like
Yeah.
the decision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to make Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman a running mate, because we
Yeah.
haven't broken that glass ceiling yet. We have had women speakers of parliament, we have had women chief justices, we have
Yeah.
had women attorney generals, but mold, you know. So we've broke the
Gloria
glass
Kufu.
ceilings, yeah, Gloria Kufu, in some areas, but it is the epoch of this advocacy is that we get representation at the highest level. We will
Absolutely.
walk before we run, but it is
Yes.
significant that a major political party has taken this a consistent decision.
Yeah.
When he took it 4 years ago, there was opposition. When he
Yeah.
decided to retain the candidature, there's even in the face of opposition,
Yeah.
he showed commitment. And I think, and I've always said that we, as the women's movement, must begin to either punish political parties that continue to show lip service to the women's agenda and reward those who seem to take actions that move the advocacy one step
Forward.
forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And it's important because for a lot of young girls, for example, growing up, when they think of coming into politics, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to be a first lady." You know, I'm going to be a first lady. But the significance of having like a female vice president means young girls are going to look up and see her up there and think, oh, I can be a vice president. I can even become vice president, because once you become a
Why
vice, we all know that,
not?
why not become a president? And that representation is so important. We need things which are aspirational. A lot of people keep complaining about the lack of role models in this space nowadays, and the wrong people becoming the role models and stuff like that. When you look at the fact that we're going to have a female vice president, I'm going to say that, because if you look at the fact that we're going to have a female vice president,
Yes.
then you think this is something that this is something we aspire to. This is something that is aspirational. This is something that we want, or we would love for all young women to aspire to. And then when you look at the knock-on effect that would have on the political space, because if we can have a female vice president, why not more female MPs? Why not more females in the district, at the district level? Because it's all about normalizing the thought processes, because people have associated the political space with men. So when even
Yes.
women want to come up and they want to stand in these positions, people are quick to tell them, this is not the space for you, this is a space for men, go home, go and cook for your husband, or whatever kind of other derogatory things people say to them. But the more we see women in these positions, the more it normalizes it, the more that we're going to have more women occupying these positions. And someone like, we're not just talking about just any woman. You know, Prof was actually the first female vice chancellor of a university. You know, she's a trailblazer within her
Yes.
space. Within her, she's someone who has lived an exemplary life. Till today, nobody can come out and say when she's been in, as an educationist and even as a minister, there's no scandals attached. This is a woman who holds a lot of values, has integrity, and he didn't just choose any woman. So it's one thing that we do the tokenism and we're just going to pick a woman, right? He didn't just pick any
No.
woman. He picked that woman. He picked a woman who holds nobody can, there's no scandal that she was not corrupt. She has been a minister before, she wasn't corrupt. And corruption is something that we all know, is something that we're all complaining about and we have issues with. So when you look at a woman who's like this, who has worked so hard in her life, in her private life, hasn't stolen any public money, this is the kind of person you want to be putting Ghana in the hands.
Yes.
This is the kind of person that you think that, okay, when she holds this position, to him, you know, when we gave her little, what does she do with it? As vice chancellor, as education minister, and now as a vice president, what is she going to do with that position? Because we've seen, and we can do a comparison with what the current vice president has done with his office, right?
Yes.
But I'm not going to, within your heads, I'm not going to say anything, but we all know what everybody's thinking. So I'm not going to go into it. But this is a woman who has...
your thoughts.
Yes, this is a woman who has worked so hard to get to this position. And yet, even with everything she's achieved in her personal life, there are still people who come after her, and the thing is, because she's such a woman of integrity, the only thing they can use is, oh, she's old. Yes, yes, we have a president who is older than 8 years, 1, 2, 3, 8 years older than her. But somehow she becoming a vice president, she's too old to be a vice president. Yet we have a president who is already 8 years older than her. And okay, it was okay. And when he was running to be president, he was exactly the same age she is now. Today. So what are we talking about? What is it that we're talking about here? And then they go on to stuff like, people start talking about, oh, well, she's ugly. What are we talking about here? Like, we're trying to build a nation. We are trying to, when you start seeing people who start using words like that, you need to understand that these people don't have anything against this woman, and they're jumping into the gutter because that's the only place they can go. Yeah. So they have to use stuff like she's ugly, she's old, which are like completely irrelevant points. It's like, can she do the job? That is the question we need to be asking. Can she do the job? And she has proven time without number that she can do the job, right? And so it is absolutely imperative that we support a woman like her. Absolutely, because I know that when we say, oh, we need more women, people, oh, but is she competent? But there's so many, I don't want to go into the fact that there's so many incompetent men who are occupying spaces.
That is why we are where we are today, Felicity. 67 years of Ghana being in the hands of the competent men. This is where we are as a nation.
Ecosystem. So the gender that you, so it's, oh, but are they competent? You don't just want any woman. Okay, we've not just given you any woman. We've given you an accomplished woman. So now, what's the next excuse? What is the next excuse? Because there's what is the next excuse? We need to all get behind this woman and support the NDC, because I think it's such an amazing thing. Because let's be honest, even within the NDC, you know, within the NDC itself, there's a lot of people who didn't support don't support Mahama in making this decision. Not the first time and not the second time. They didn't support it, but he was still so committed to the idea. Because, and I want to contrast that with what Nana Akufo-Addo, before he became president, actually mentioned the fact that he wanted to introduce he had an affirmative action where he wanted to make sure they gave a quota for a number of women who would run as MPs, so they'll protect certain seats for women and stuff like that. That was what he said before he became president. Yes. He's been in government for 8 years now. He still hasn't passed the affirmative action bill. His party actually shut that quota down, so that never happened. So they didn't protect the women who held these positions, the female MPs. No. They didn't protect them. And until today, they haven't passed. So this is paying lip service. Yes.
Certain ministers lost their seats. Yes. There's the MP for Wale Wale is currently in court contesting the results of the primaries, and her opponent is a male who works in the office of the vice president. So there's a lot of, you know, lip service. And guess what? We are all told that when President Akufo-Addo wants something, he gets it.
Yeah.
Yes. And even in the search for who would have partnered him, there were names, female names that came up then. Honorable Halima Mahama. And we've been told that there were protests against the nomination of Honorable Halima Mahama, just as there have been protests, you know, against the nomination of Professor J. But what did John do? Because he's committed to the women agenda, he gave reasons why this has to happen. And he did. But what did our president do? He went to Canada at the Women's Liver Conference and told the whole world that Ghanaian women had not
Yes,
shown
so
enough
dynamism.
dynamism. Our
Yes.
president went and sold this negative narrative about the Ghanaian women who are the backbone of his economy, that they have not shown enough dynamism.
Not loyal ladies.
The women who form majority of the citizens that he is leading. The women who form majority of the informal economy. And when you come to even the matters of taxation and finance, I'm on a project with NetRight. And the studies have shown that the women or people in the informal economy have a disproportionate tax burden than their colleagues in the formal economy. You think that is all these small stamps, but they pay for everything. They pay for everything.
But you're going far. What about the fact that we're giving tax breaks to these international, multinational companies coming into Ghana? We're giving them tax breaks. But you know, Amata, who is a market woman, where's her tax breaks?
No
the
tax breaks for
multinational
her.
companies who have billions of dollars in revenue and profits every year, those are the ones that we're giving tax breaks to. Yet the Ghanaian who is starting their business, we're not, you know, you're paying, if you go to a restaurant, you go to a restaurant just to buy food, we're still paying COVID levy. What is that?
Yes.
What is it going towards?
Thank God His Excellency John Dramani has promised that it does not make sense. That tax
you're paying
COVID
levy, you're paying about 4 or 5 different taxes just because you went to buy food.
Health insurance levy, and yet the health insurance is on its knees today. Yes. Let me see. Bonkina says that even in Yendi, they silenced the lady and allowed Farouk Alu Mama to go through. Opoku says, good evening. You're watching from Berlin. Thank you very much, Opoku. Yes, we will keep up the good work. We would speak. We would be citizens, not spectators, because that is what we're expected to do, to be citizens and to be able to assert our rights. There's nothing wrong with the citizen asserting their rights and insisting that our leaders should lead us more transformatively, more inclusively, more transparently, more corruption-free. Too much of our resources are going into the hands of a few. I was just watching a video, you know, of President Akufo-Addo making the point that the NDC were enjoying monies that they had kept under the table, and because of that, they don't want to leave power. Today, it's just so poetic that President Akufo-Addo himself was writing a Dear Cecilia letter to his minister who was hoarding millions of pounds under her, you know, in her room.
Yeah, in her bedroom.
Table is small.
To the point where she was so rich, she stole so much. There was so much money in that room that she didn't even notice when 1 million was gone.
Imagine.
That's
what I could do with $1 million. And our president saw nothing wrong with that, you know. So please, there's something wrong. There's something wrong in the leadership that we have, and change must happen. Change must happen. I don't think the NPP deserves to return to power.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, they don't. I'm just so saddened that Noor has been unable to join. Noor, I have no idea what is happening. I cannot see you on the feed to even be able to add you. And I think when you send your request, just like Felicity does, I don't see it on my screen either. It's just so unfortunate. I don't know how else. So anybody who is IT inclined, how do we resolve this matter? You know, Noor had so much to say. I know she did.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
I just can't find her. So what Felicity, sometime back in the MasterCard Foundation, I know you've heard of them. They have these reports that they issue periodically on. Noor has been sitting here requesting, and I can't even see it. Oh my God! It's just not your viewers. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And if I exit this page, it's like I exit. Yeah. No, can you please go off and go out of go out of it and then come back?
Probably just like close Facebook completely.
Yes. And then open again and let's see.
Shut down Facebook and try again.
But
Oh,
so you see, where do I see? I Jesus says no Fallon is requesting pick her. But when I open the icon to see my viewers, I don't see no one's face to pick her.
I,
It's such a conundrum.
I can see her in the comments though.
Yeah, I can see her in the comments too.
She's like, oh, no, sorry.
I feel so bad.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are now. Mastercard Foundation says that over the past couple of reports, Ghana has been, there was even a year Ghana topped in terms of women-owned
Yeah.
businesses. Okay. Ah, but okay, so Ohinowa says that I can only have one guest at a time.
That's
But when
not
we
true.
started off, we
We
had
had
two.
wrong.
We had
Yeah.
one. Okay, so we'll try that. Okay, so after a while, I'll remove you and see if no one can come back on, and then we'll
Okay.
try
Yeah,
that
that's
too.
fine. She
Yeah.
said she will type
Okay.
her submissions.
I would, yes, no, please be typing
Yeah.
also, so that, yeah. So Mastercard Foundation finds that Ghanaian women entrepreneurs in 1 year, for a couple of years ago, were topped
Yeah.
in
In the
terms
whole world,
of
in terms of
the
women-owned businesses.
ranking
Yeah.
of women
Yeah.
who were running women-owned enterprises. Of course,
Yeah.
we are talking about the small to medium and micro scale enterprises, and this
Yeah.
is globally, and Ghana
Yeah.
has been in like the top 5 over, the reporting periods. So this is not a group of people you describe as lacking dynamism. No,
Yes.
you can't get away with that. Your women who work in the informal economy are the ones that are topping the global rankings in terms of women owned and run businesses, albeit these are small scale tabletop enterprises. So when President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama speaks about the Women's Bank, and some people are quick to ridicule it, they don't understand it.
Sand. Yeah. I'm on
They don't
Tiasia.
understand that there is a huge market weight potential that has not had its surface even scratched in
Yeah.
terms of women owning, managing business and managing businesses. And they require the necessary interventions, the necessary support. So I told you that we've been participating in this tax justice project with Net Rights, okay? And we've set up a financial, a women in finance
Yeah.
group. When at one of the programs, the representative from AGI spoke about some of the barriers to even building capacity for women, and why some of the women will not even go for some level of they will not borrow at some level because they know they want to manage their finances in the way that they know how.
Yeah.
Simple things as the time for meetings, as the time for capacity building programs were already barriers for some women. Do
Yeah.
you
I
know
can
how
see
they
that easily.
found out? During COVID, when they moved all of their trainings onto online,
Yeah.
there was an uptick of those interventions. So when you go and put a training in the afternoon when women have to go and pick children, they sit and then they leave because they have to
Yeah.
go and pick children. But when it was COVID and they transitioned to what do you call it, online, these women were joining. They have learned bookkeeping. They are using very easy to use social apps, and softwares to now even do basic stock taking. And these women are talking about their lived experience. You just know that if this woman is supported in some meaningful way, she will turn her income around and the family will be the better for
Noel
it.
is typed.
Okay,
So do you
can
want
you
to?
let's see if I can read Non's okay. So no, I'm gonna remove. I don't want to also make a mistake of removing you and then not getting you
No, so
back.
just read what she read. What she typed in.
Where's no?
Do you
I
want me to
thought I
read it?
saw it. Yeah, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Oh. So number one, we definitely need women in parliament because women represent some 51% of our population. Having time having time missing at the decision table means that we have lost the brains, half the submissions, and half the representation of our country. It also means that the concerns of women are not properly tabled and addressed, effectively ensuring that women remain marginalized. That's what I've read so far. Yeah.
Broken Yao says that NCA is blackmailing us. So yesterday they messed up with the internet. Yesterday, after my live, I didn't get internet again in the entire period that I was on the walk. So I couldn't even do live.
Yeah.
So, well, sometimes these things are just curious coincidences. Let's remove the numbers of curious coincidences ahead of 2024. Felicity, not so. Curious coincidences, too many, become curious. So let's pray. Yeah, I've been struggling with it. Yeah. Great submission, says Bokena. Thank you. And there's somebody who says that he will support us with data every week if we are to keep this up. We'll try and keep it up. Sunday nights with the trio. I've got a name. Sunday nights with the trio. Oheniba says, truth. Honestly, to witness the persistent misogynistic rhetoric aimed at women who aspire to political leadership is very, it's a long one, let me go back. But it's a nice one to read. It's very revealing and disheartening. These derogatory remarks are not merely personal attacks, they are, I can't even see properly. I need glasses. They are symptomatic of a broader systemic issue that seeks to undermine the progressive and potential of our women. Yet women have historically demonstrated unparalleled leadership within our communities and households, balancing complex household dynamics, but continue to driving grassroots economic activities, yes, and nurturing social cohesion, very important value with remarkable acumen, but continuing to be marginalized. Women, we continue to marginalize, we deny ourselves the full spectrum of innovative solutions and compassionate leaderships necessary for holistic societal advancement. We often tend to forget that true democracy is reflective of its entire populace, and the exclusion of women from political discourse and leadership is a disservice to our collective potential. Shaking your head. Thank you for that wonderful input, Oheneba Krempe. Yeah, we want a lot of women to also understand and appreciate gender. Felicity, I also realized that even as we speak about gender issues and the fact that toxic gender, somebody is something on, I can hear myself. I don't know if it's from me or yours.
No, it's probably on your side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That toxic gender narratives do not only affect women negatively, but they also do affect men negatively as well. So what do we need to do to expand the understanding and deepen the understanding of what gender is and why we speak about equity, why we speak about equality, and why we speak against toxic systemic gender narratives?
Okay, so I'll start with the fact that when it comes to people's traits and abilities, we need to move away from attributing them to any specific gender. So when you think about something like leadership ability, there's nothing about a man that makes him a better leader. Equally, there's nothing about a woman that makes, there's a woman who can be a great leader and there's a man who can be a great leader. Everybody should be judged based on their personal capacity. So you look at that person and you judge them based on what they do, how they act, you judge them based on that. But a lot of the time we want to ascribe characteristics to a gender, and that's where we start going wrong. So if we start saying that, okay, when it comes to leadership, and we have to be critical and honest, for a very long time, people have assumed that men should be leaders by default, and religion has supported this idea. So you look around you, and Ghana has been led by men, primarily primarily men are leading parliament, government, in every way, men are leading. How is Ghana going? Then you have to sit back and say, okay, clearly the idea that men by default are leaders is flawed, isn't true. So how do we find better leaders? We need to start looking at people's skill sets. We need to start looking at how people behave. We need to look at things beyond their gender. So it isn't, but in that, of course, we have to recognize that there is a gap between how many men and women exist within these spaces. So we have to be very deliberate about ensuring that we're getting more women. Before Canada was able to get 50, I think they have 50% leaders, females as ministers. Before they were able to do that, the Prime Minister, before he became Prime Minister, started recruiting women to start running for office within the local space. So like in Ghana, what you would call like the district elections, as MPs, as parliamentary candidates, he started recruiting women into those spaces. So there has to be a very deliberate effort about ensuring that we are inviting women into these spaces. When we do bring them in, we need to ensure that the space is safe, because the kind of attacks that women who have a voice tend to face, women who dare to stand up to become, who try to get into the political space, the kind of attacks, the insults, that's a barrier for a lot of people, how we treat women who come into these spaces. So if I'm a woman and I'm seeing how other women who have become politicians are treated, it's a barrier for me. I'm thinking I'm not coming in. We've made a political space way too expensive. The kind of money you need to be able to run to become an MP in Ghana, for a couple of years ago, it was something like...
I found no.
Yay!
Wow.
Oh my
No,
God.
no.
How you
Oh my God. I have literally been sitting here the entire time waiting for you guys to add me. Anyway, it's so good to be back.
Okay, great. Felicity, wrap up your thought.
We've made the political space way too expensive. It's too expensive to run an election, to win an election, to run for MP, even at the district level. So women, at the moment, the resources sits in the hands of men. Even though we have so many women who have these businesses, how much money are these businesses actually generating? So women don't have the money to run for office. They don't have the people, their political godfathers, who are going to sponsor them to run. So these are real barriers as to why a lot of women do not get into the political space. So let me just give Noel, go on.
Yeah. So I think we're talking. Yeah, a lot of things you want to address. You can talk about them, and then we'll narrow the conversation again to distill the specific barriers, but then the opportunities too.
Felicity,
I've seen in the last
slow, or is
couple
it
of,
just me? Can you repeat
Felicity has
your
touched.
question, because you were freezing?
So I'm saying that Felicity has gone into discussing some of the barriers. Okay, so you may also address whatever issues you were thinking to address before this point, and then we'll distill the conversation into the barriers and, most importantly, the opportunities.
Okay. Me, I think I made a point earlier that the fact that we do not have enough women in parliament, enough women at decision-making tables in the country, means that the country is losing out on a lot of development and a lot of critical voices. The Commonwealth has this roundtable that they call critical voices, and it's always highlighting the pertinent issues. Now, if you look at the last census we had in Ghana, you will realize that our population has over 50% as women. I know a lot of people like to think women are, but we have about 51%, 52% are women. So imagine if you go into a room and a critical over half of its population is not represented. How do you expect the issues that are raised to be beneficial to the entire population? It's never going to happen.